Basic appraisal procedures, page 112. Is the property use or proposed use a legally permitted use under current zoning laws? Is a variance from zoning needed, required, or in place? Early zoning laws usually established 4 land use categories. 1. Residential. 2. Commercial. 3. Industrial. 4. Agricultural/rural. Modern zoning laws tend to be very specific and somewhat complicated. In addition to the 4 basic categories, numerous subcategories are used. For example, even a small city might have 3 types of residential zoning. In zones designated R1, only detached single-family houses are allowed. In R2 zones, row houses and duplexes, as well as detached houses, are permitted. R3 zones also allow multifamily housing. In addition, there are likely to be separate zones for light industrial and heavy industrial uses, light commercial and heavy commercial, etc. Each zoning type generally has its own minimum lot size and building height limits. There are usually setback and side yard rules requiring buildings to be at least a specified distance from the front and side property lines. There may also be a limit on how much a lot can be covered by a building or other similar restrictions. Zoning laws regulate many development aspects in addition to type of use, building size, and placement. For instance, a zoning ordinance is likely to include requirements for off-street parking. Important points. A simple site sketch may be included with the site data form. Zoning considerations and improvements are important elements of the site information sample along with personal observations, for instance, landscaping view, etc. In New Mexico, you can build what zone? I don't know what I wrote that. Pass-through zoning. Residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, rural. Pass-through zoning only goes in one direction. For example, industrial zoning would allow commercial uses, but commercial zoning doesn't allow industrial uses. Page 113. Landscaping, outdoor lighting, and other details that a local government may feel are necessary. Sometimes zones are set up in a hierarchical fashion such that all uses above the current zoning are permitted. This is sometimes referred to as pass-through zoning. Pass-through zoning goes only in one direction. So industrial zoned areas, you could build another type of commercial use building, but in commercial zone, you would not be permitted to have industrial use buildings. Exceptions to zoning laws are possible, but often not easily obtained. Still, you should understand these exemptions so you can comment on them accordingly in your appraisal report. Non-conforming uses. Non-conforming uses occur when land use doesn't conform to current zoning laws, but is allowed because the land use was established before the new laws were enacted or the property has been granted a variance. This is also referred to as legal grandfather non-conforming use. They mean the same thing. These landowners are permitted to continue using their land the same way they always have as a grandfathered use. Permission to continue non-conforming uses are not always tied to a particular owner. If the property is sold, the new owner may be allowed to continue with non-conforming use if it is grandfathered under the old or pre-zoning laws, usually provided the property is not altered and the use has not ceased for a specified period. Use variances. Variances occur when permission is granted by the zoning authority to allow some deviation from strict zoning laws. Variances permit a building or property usage that is not otherwise allowed. Specifically, a use variance permits a property owner to use land in a way that's not allowed in that zone, such as commercial use in a residential zone. Area variances legally permit a change in the rules regarding building size, height limits, setbacks, side yards, and other similar requirements. When a zoning board denies or grants a variance, the applicant or neighbors may appeal the decision to the courts. Conditional uses. Conditional uses occur when land usage does not comply with the general zoning rules for its location, but the use is permitted because it benefits the public good, sometimes called special exemptions. Most zoning laws permit uses that are inconsistent with a neighborhood zoning designation, but are necessary or beneficial to the community, such as schools, hospitals, and churches. No area variances, like a structure being built closer to the street.